If they're using you, put it away. Don't show it, okay? Come as you are without all the monetary things, and let's see how you do. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I will be doing an in-depth breakdown about Jordan and Megan from Love is Blind Season 9. So I just want to start off by saying I have seen up to episode 9, so there will be spoilers, specifically about Jordan and Megan. If you want to keep watching and there's some things you don't want to know about what happens, I would just kind of stop watching now. I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. So I decided to do this video because I thought that the relationship dynamic between these two are very interesting, okay? So let's just jump right in, all right? We're gonna start with Sparkle Megan. So we're introduced to Sparkle Megan, and she has a pretty unique nickname that she says that she got from like her friends because she just really loves things that sparkle, right? And we know that she's a very successful business owner, and she's 35 years old, and she says that men are intimidated by her level of success, right? And that this intimidation has somewhat affected her dating life, right? In terms of why she hasn't found a partner. You can tell that she's kind of type A, seems like she can be a bit of a perfectionist as well. And she says that she is looking for someone that is emotionally and basically financially secure, right? So this is kind of what Megan starts off with. This is how we're introduced to Sparkle Megan. And you know, her nickname, I think, gives her a level of, you're curious, like, okay, what is her story, right? So something I wanted to talk about is when Megan says that men are intimidated by her level of success, okay? And what I found interesting is I think that the pods were a perfect time, right, for that intimidation factor to not be there for Megan, right? Because how are you intimidated by something you can't see, right? The only intimidation factor that can come from the pods is by the men hearing something from what Megan is saying. So to me, I was like, okay, if on the outside world, men are intimidated by her level of success, by some of the things they see when they see her on the outside world, the pods are a great time for that stuff to be gone, right? So it's an opportunity for them to just kind of hear her out on who she is outside of who Sparkle Megan is on the outside world. Okay, so what I found strange was the first thing I observed about Megan was when she was speaking to Jordan in the pods, right? I think it was the first time they were speaking, and she ended up mentioning that her car had an emblem on it, almost like her car was somewhat blinged out. And Jordan, you know, wanted to know, okay, what kind of car do you have? Because it's like, not everybody has an emblem on their car. That's crazy, right? And Jordan is kind of piecing together that, okay, if this girl has her car blinged out, she's probably doing pretty well financially, right? So he's trying to put the two and two together. He's like, So that was one instance that like kind of stuck in my mind, right? There was another time when I believe she was also talking to Jordan about how she will be attending a wedding in Lake Como, Italy, okay? And if anybody doesn't know about Lake Como is a very expensive part of Italy, and it is notorious for people that have a lot of money going there to get married. It's beautiful. It's like by the water, and it's very expensive, right? And Megan mentions to Jordan that the wedding venue alone that she will be attending, right? The venue alone was $400,000. Okay, so that just gives you an idea like who Megan is kind of interacting with in the outside world, right? She's got some rich friends, okay? Because that is a lot of money just to spend on a wedding venue, right? So that's the second thing I wanted to mention. The third thing that Megan brings up in the pods, and I believe she's speaking to Mike when she says this, is that she tells Mike at one point that she dated a billionaire on the outside world, and she goes into details about how she was miserable when she was dating this billionaire, but that, you know, she had the opportunity to kind of date someone that was in that level of wealth, which is like a crazy level of wealth, right? Like not everybody can just go around and say they've dated a billionaire. Like that's crazy, right? So what I wanted to say was, I find it strange that Megan brought these three instances up. I think that for somebody who says that on the outside world, men are intimidated by her level of success and this and that and the things she has and whatever, why did she feel it necessary to bring these things up? I don't get it. And what I find strange about people is 9 times out of 10, maybe not 9, maybe we'll go with 7 or 8, okay? Most of the time when somebody says, hey, people are judging me based off of this, best believe that is sometimes all that they have to offer. It kind of reminds me of when a woman will say something like, hey, men are just like using me for my looks, or they're just always sexualizing me, or this and that. And then you kind of peer into what's going on and you realize that the woman is also sexualizing herself, right? So she's mad that men are sexualizing her, but she's also sexualizing herself to men. Does that make sense? So in Megan's instance, right, she's saying that, okay, men are intimidated by her level of success on the outside world. This is something that's inhibited her and kind of affected her dating life in a negative way, right? She should be going into these pods not mentioning anything that has to do with the kind of money that she could have in the real world. Do you guys agree? Because this is what confuses me about Megan, right? And I think that no matter what she says about men being intimidated by her, I think that she puts a lot of value on the way she is financially in the outside world. I think that she kind of puts a lot of value in terms of who she is in the things that she has and the money she's obtained. I think it's a part of her identity, right? And even though she says men are intimidated by this, I also feel like she sometimes leads with that, right? Because these 3 things did not need to be mentioned. If, as a woman, if you're dealing with men being intimidated by you, she should have left all these details out. So that's the first thing I want to talk about with Megan. She went in mentioning things that did not need to be mentioned. These are details you need to leave out if you do not want a man to judge you based off of these details. So that was my first issue with Megan, right? And to me, it was contradicting. Men are intimidated by you for these reasons. Why are you mentioning these things at all? Doesn't make sense. So that was the first thing I noticed. And I believe that Megan puts a lot of value on these monetary things that she has. I think that she puts a lot of her identity into these things. So I think it's hard for Megan not to bring these things up because I think that she kind of derives a lot of her worth from the financial success she's obtained and the things that she has, right? That's what I think is going on, because it's she couldn't even not leave those. She couldn't leave those details out. It's she had to say it. She had to say it, right? Because I think it's a part of who she is. And I think this is why she's not finding success on the outside world, because she's leading with her money, right? Too much, way too much. If you don't want someone to be intimidated by you for something you have, don't show them you have it. Don't tell them you have it. Don't walk around with an emblemed, blinged out car. It's like a man saying, hey, women are using me for my money. And then the man is running around in a Bugatti and has luxury Rolex watches. What are we doing, guys? What are we doing? Be so for real, come on. No. And the bottom line is that people are not sometimes honest and upfront. The bottom line is people put value in those things. They're putting value in that nice car and that Rolex, right? And that's how they see themselves. And then they're saying, oh, but people are using me for these things. If they're using you, put it away. Don't show it. Okay, come as you are without all the monetary things, and let's see how you do. Right? Come on. So Megan has 2 connections in the pods. We see that she's torn between Mike and Jordan. Mike and Jordan have completely different aesthetics. They're completely different people. One thing I'll give Megan credit on is her acknowledging pretty early on that Mike was very similar to the men she dated in the outside world, right? She dated in the real world. And acknowledging that it didn't work with these men. They didn't necessarily have the best character and this and that. And she kind of realized that she didn't really want to go with Mike, because she was like, this is what I normally go with. I got into this experiment to try something different. So I will give Megan credit for that. I think that she did do a good job of acknowledging that Mike wasn't really the one for her. And I don't think Mike was the one for her, right? So I think that was the one thing that she discerned correctly. I was like, okay, good judgment call on that one, right? Okay, so we've broken down Sparkle Megan. Let's talk about Jordan, okay? So Jordan is 30 years old, and he's a single dad to a 4-year-old son named Luca. Luca has type 1 diabetes, right? And he says that he found it hard to find someone in the real world that basically was okay with him being a parent and like navigating that, right? Like dating while also being a single parent. He said it was difficult. Jordan is a service manager and also an author of children's books. And these books were inspired by his son, Luca. Okay. So that's basically Jordan in a nutshell. All right. He has some tattoos. He kind of has this like more edgier look to him as well. So now I want to talk about some of the conversations Megan and Jordan had while they were in the pods. Okay. So one conversation that stood out to me that I'm assuming didn't really stand out to anyone else was Jordan mentioned to Megan at one point that he, before he had his son, he struggled to find meaning in life, right? Like he said that he thought, he kind of had this thought in his mind, like, do we all just come here to work and then we die? Like almost like, what is the point of life? What is the point of being here, right? So Megan wasn't really listening to him when he said this. I believe that she was kind of caught up. She seemed like she had something else on her mind, and she kind of was talking, just like kind of changed the subject to whatever was going on in her mind. So it kind of just completely missed her, right? That whatever Jordan was saying. But I kind of clocked it because, so the reason this stood out to me, right, is because I have noticed that sometimes when people struggle to find meaning in their life, it can sometimes be harder for them to reach a level of financial success, right? Because they tend to not be as plugged into the system as someone who maybe doesn't think as deeply about the meaning of life or questioning why we do what we do and why we're here, right? So Megan is the complete opposite of Jordan, right? Jordan seems very down to earth, right? Grounded, and kind of like the person that kind of like goes with the flow and kind of has maybe like deeper thoughts about why we're here, what is the meaning of life. Whereas Megan seems to be more controlling, I would say a little more materialistic, and doesn't strike me as someone who kind of deeply questions the meaning of life, or some of why we do what we do while we're here. I feel like if anything, she's very like plugged into the system and like, you know, like she's just a very different person. So these two people are polar opposites, right? Polar opposites. And it's not just about monetarily, like financially, they're polar opposites. I think they're also polar opposites in the way that they think about things and how they kind of view life in a way. And I think that this polarity is where the attraction came when they were in the pods. I think this is why Megan and Jordan were attracted to each other, right? Okay. So I want to talk about when they go on their honeymoon, okay? Because I think at one point, Megan says to Jordan while they're on their honeymoon that he should get used to staying in these really nice hotels, okay? Insinuating that he will now be living this kind of life because he is now with Megan, right? And we all know that Megan will be the one providing this nice lifestyle for him. Megan did not need to say that. When she said that, I was like, who's going to tell Megan to put her balls away? Why is she doing this? Like, I just feel like at any moment she wants to show her balls. She wants to show that like, what is going on? You know, Megan, she's very much in her masculine energy, that energy of giving, like, no. I think I saw somebody comment online that when Megan said this comment about get used to staying in these nice hotels, that they felt like Jordan's balls like shrivel in that moment or something. And I just busted out laughing. But it's like, honestly, like, what is she doing? Why do you need to say that? Right? Like, and this is the issue I have with Megan. It's like, what are you trying to prove? Who are you trying to prove it to? As a woman, you shouldn't be trying to prove anything in terms of that. Like, what are we doing here, you know? And I think especially knowing that Jordan isn't able to provide a certain level of lifestyle that she already has, and also considering the fact that she came into this experiment talking about how men are intimidated by her, why are you making these comments? The intimidation is coming from Megan. Megan is the problem because she is leading with all these ridiculous statements. Like, you don't need to say that. You don't need to say that. And I just really wanted to highlight this because Megan's saying men are intimidated by her and this and that. Like, she's part of that problem. There's certain things that don't need to be said. It's okay, Megan. You can put the balls away. Please, please put them away. Like, no, just no. So that really stood out to me. I'm like, she's just so much in that masculine energy. There's no way that Jordan can ever be in his masculine because Megan is she's doing it. She's got all that energy. It's crazy. So, okay, so I have watched up to episode 9, right? So there is a scene where Megan and Jordan are looking for a home. Okay, they're on a house tour. And on this house tour, we end up finding out the house was beautiful, by the way. It was in Denver and it's worth over $2 million. Okay. So on this house tour, I'm thinking, guys, like to me, it is strange. And it is strange because they're on this house tour, you know, looking at a house that like clearly Jordan could never afford. So Megan, I guess, is going to be bankrolling this house, right? Completely. And that's fine. I'm like, okay, sure, right? But I'm not saying a woman can't give to a man and a woman can't be in a position where she is financially able to provide for a man. But women do not naturally enjoy the idea of taking care of a man financially, especially in a long-term sense. Right? I think that Megan is okay with this for now because I feel like she really wants to be married. She seems like she really likes Jordan. But eventually, I think Megan will get fed up of giving so much to Jordan, right? And I do wonder, and I think that this happens to a lot of women. It's like women, yeah, we like to give, but like, I don't think we naturally like to stay in that state of constantly giving. The state of giving is kind of a more masculine state, right? And I'm not saying that women can't give to their man. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying a woman can't be financially stable. I mean, it's amazing that women can build what they can build now in terms of financial stability and success. It's amazing, right? But the problem that I have is men tend to struggle being in a role where they're not going to be able to give much, right? And I don't think that women like to constantly be in this giving role. Eventually, they get that up. If they go through hard times and that Megan needs Jordan to step up financially in any way, trust and believe there are going to be problems, okay? Because Jordan will not be able to step up to the level that Megan needs. They're on two different stratospheres, right? So I don't really know how this is going to work. I like Jordan and Megan as a couple in terms of like their chemistry and how they gel. I think that it works, but then the way that they are financially, I think is going to cause problems. I do. Even when they were on this house tour, I was looking around like, this is just so awkward. And even as a man, it's like, for you to think like, okay, I guess my wife will just be taking care of the mortgage. I know they were talking about splitting it up somehow so that there is some part that Jordan will be paying for. But we all know that if you're looking at homes at over $2 million, majority of the cost of that home is gonna come from Megan. Yeah. And I'm not saying Jordan won't be able to give much, but not nearly as much as Megan will. And that's fine, right? As long as they're both okay with this dynamic. That's the key, because I think that eventually this puts a strain, okay? We'll see. And I think that women at the end of the day, even when they are successful, they still want a man that's either financially equivalent or even like more financially secure than they are. And I think that there's reasons for that. I think that the relationship dynamic between men and women, it tends to work better when a man is either financially equivalent to you or doing better. So, and then I just want to bring up another thing too, because I also remembered that in the men's quarters, right, when they were still in the pods, we saw Jordan telling the other guys about how Megan is kind of bougie and that, you know, she lives this certain lifestyle. And we could kind of see that he was excited to be a part of this lifestyle, not just for him, but for his son, Luca, right? So that I haven't forgotten about this now, because that scene kind of stuck in my mind. Like, Jordan is not just thinking about, oh, I really like Megan and this and that. He's also thinking about that financial aspect of things. So just clocking that in my mind as a memory, right? And even when they were on the house tour, it's like Jordyn was getting glimpses of a lifestyle that he knows that he could never afford if it wasn't for Megan, right? And I just don't know how this is going to work. I think my biggest worry with this couple is that normally the partner that has more of the financial bearing, like more money, is also the partner that tends to lead in the relationship, right? Because money is tied to so many other things. And you already see it even when they're on the house tour looking at homes. Like, Megan is taking the lead in a lot of ways. And it won't just be that house tour that Megan will be taking the lead. She will be taking the lead in other aspects of the relationship because she is basically the breadwinner of like this whole dynamic. And a lot of times when women lead, it doesn't work out. Like it doesn't. So I want to have faith. Sorry, there's like a really loud truck outside, guys, if you hear this noise, but I want to have faith that it could work. But generally when women lead, they don't lead you to good places. Like, I just don't know how that dynamic works, because somebody has to lead, somebody has to follow. And because Megan is so much more financially well off, Jordyn will be following her lead. So as long as they're okay with this dynamic, I think it could work. I'm just, pointing out that this is the discrepancy here, right? In terms of how it's going to look. And I think both of them have to be okay with the dynamic of this relationship, right? Megan has to be okay with playing a certain role. Jordyn has to be okay with playing a certain role. If they are, then maybe this couple has a sense of actually working long term. If I had to bet my money on it, I would say no. Okay, I don't think that this will work out, especially after getting to episode 9. I'm just looking like the difference is just too stark. They're too different, in my opinion. Yeah, so we shall see. Please let me know your thoughts about what you guys think about this couple. I just thought I would do an in-depth breakdown because I thought that their dynamic was very interesting. And yeah, let me know if you guys think that this will work. I want to know your opinion. I want to know even if you disagree with some of the things I said. Please put your comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I have more videos that come out every week. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.